Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
I mean, they banned Rise in the first game also, Direwolves. They've re-banned themselves again. Yep. So it's something that we often look to Sharp to play, but because, as expected in this case, Minky is first pick, they do get rid of it.
Yeah, I agree. The blue side Rise bang was a bit weird, but maybe Sharp's just come up against something that Minky's played. Like Minky, again, much more experience in this top lane here, will know more of the one-to-one matchups and does love to duel people. If the Direwolves want to get away from that, Rise is a bit brittle. So we'll have to see. As Kalista, again, Legacy going to keep it 3 for 3. Why change it? In fact, let's just make it 6 straight bans from game 1.
I wonder what the picks will be, Pastry Time. If
Maokai.
They will make us feel like we're back to game 1 again, or if something will change up completely. Maokai might be a smart decision to take it away, but that's something that I like even more if they actually lock this in.
Yeah, the takeaway potentially from Sybil there, who again had a fine Nidalee game. Nidalee very strong on this patch, but just not the same for Sybil. You know, for all the goofy Zac play, I do like when he gets aggressive and ganks those lanes. That's why we've seen Dials, especially their aggressive laners, start to take over early.
Yeah, so Nidalee's actually quite good at ganking. It's something that needs to be considered. And we saw Sybil not to a great success, but still find a lot of strength on that champion. Nidalee's becoming more and more popular with patch 5.13 as time goes on. Doesn't seem to be their focal point though here, Legacy.
No, it's Rek'Sai once again for Carbon, so going to keep it nice and consistent. I agree, Nidalee can gank well. Didn't see that much from Sybil, did a lot more farming, which was nice, but couldn't keep the Rek'Sai out of those lanes, and that was the big problem. It was Carbon's early game play, usually pegged with Flying Dew.
Yeah, and the fact that there was a sight stone from Sybil first, but Carbon still found all of the ganks raises the questions. Maybe he should have prioritized damage first, Sybil, and then gone for kills instead of just going for that. But
I like this a lot.
Finally, a change.
Yep, Maokai the pick there, so Sharp will keep that consistent. I mean, it's fine. I think Maokai thrives in lots of different situations, so I get that part of it, but the taking away of the Thresh from Flying Dew feels very necessary after what happened in game 1.
Part of me wants the Flying Dew Bard to come out now and just throw it all on the line with that champion, but in saying that, they have locked in a very nice pick-based and still front line of the Maokai from Direwolves. Sybil locking away that Thresh for Nada, something that we don't often see him on. Nada favors the tanks a little bit more than anything else, so it'll be a big question mark to see how he does perform on this Thresh, but still pseudo-tanky, so he should be fine.
Yeah, I mean, we called him the Guardian. Can't really guard that many people if you're dead, so likes to have a big health pool to make sure he can absorb all the damage, but
flawless logic.
Thresh will be different. Thanks, mate.
You are welcome.
There's Corki and Brom, actually, the next 2 picks for Legacy.
I really like the Brom pick. It denies the potential of saying Ezreal on the flip side here from Perfection. It is the direct counter by having that Unbreakable. It does raise a lot of questions as the Direwolves draft from here on out, what they're looking to pick. I know that we say Ezreal did a lot of work in that last game. We have seen a lot of high priority on the pick, but usually not actually picked until later in the order. Essentially, getting Braum on that Flying Dew denies the possibility.
Yeah, and I think it's even a soft counter to, like a soft blocker pick to Jace, which you saw from Perfection as well. So lots of things to like. Wouldn't be bad against that champion either. That King's at least going to hover for himself again. Maybe he just really wants to play Cogmore today. Couldn't tell you. But Dials do not have very long left to make these picks, but they will get a counter pick.
I'm still expecting the Cogmore to be mid lane.
There's Cogmore Gragas, yeah.
Still surprised that it hasn't been so far, but King just seems to have this thing for Cogmore right now, and it would be nice to get him through a game where he doesn't have a very desperately bad early game and see if he can be the carry that his team is looking for. Tally loves Riven.
He does, so gonna hover that there. Tally's used to be a top laner, of course, for anyone who doesn't know, had a very memorable play to win them the semi-finals against the Chiefs about this time last year, actually.
Yep.
Or just a little later on. But Tally, you know, going to give a throwback there. Gragas Cogmore, though, for Direwolves, can still flex the Cogmore. Remember, I actually like this sort of flex picking much more when you still have a pick to go, because Direwolves on blue side ran into the problem of we have to pick the rest of our lineup here, and they completely gave away what was happening.
Yeah, I like the way that they've flex picked the Cogmore with the last pick here on the mid laner or the AD carry.
Wow, I'm going to keep it different here as Ezreal there for Claire once more, but Minkuel's not going to Hecarim. He actually goes to Nara instead as Twisted Fate has been locked in. Perfection going to go full solo queue on this one.
We forgot Twisted Fate existed, banned away from Perfection in nearly every single OPL regular split game.
And with good reason.
The one time we saw him play it, he won the game.
Yep.
That's a pretty scary statistic to consider. Direwolves have finished off their team comp right now. And it says to me they've got a lot of makings to actually get King through a rough mid-game and actually scale him through. Not just bridge him with the strength of a Jace, gank him.
Yeah, I mean, Perfection had a good lane in game 1, certainly, but couldn't get around the map and try and influence the other lanes, but did teamfight well. Perfection's now going to get a chance to do that, especially if that's the summoner spell he's going for.
Yeah.
I like it. I mean, this is hilarious to me, because Perfection was a top laner in Split 1, and Legacy were the only team that refused to ban the Perfection hack room. Yeah. Guess what happened when they didn't ban it, Rusty?
They lost every game
lost
against
horribly.
The Direwolves. Yep.
So they're the team that usually doesn't like to, you know, isn't afraid of Perfection's signature champions, but most teams with good reason are afraid of his Twisted Fate. Is he going to prove it to them?
Well, we're about to find out exactly. He does need to go massive. They're 1 down in this best-of-5 series. If ever there was a game, it's now.
Well, game number 2 will be underway shortly, but get on Twitter and use those hashtags LGC win for Legacy or DW win for Direwolves. Legacy are up a game, but it's a best-of-5, and Twisted Fate will be on the side of Direwolves for this game number 2, so Rusty might be in for a long series.
It could be a very scary game. You might say it tips into the favor of Direwolves just because they have that Twisted Fate, that strength that Legacy, as we said, they have a track record of not banning them away. Here we go.
That being said, as we do get onto the Rift, if Legacy can beat the Perfection Twisted Fate, all the momentum suddenly with them. I feel like Legacy do this just to test themselves, because they're already up a game. It's a best-of-5. They're confident in a long series, so they're like, just give it to him, see what happens.
It feels to me as though their strategy was set in stone since before the game even commenced. Their ban's the exact same as the first one. No adaptation actually taking place just yet. So until a loss actually shakes the Legacy side up, they might just stick to what works and give away the Twisted Fate. He does have teleport too.
Yeah, that was what I was noting. The summoner spell is teleport there for Perfection, so you can tell he wants to get around the map as much as possible. He's like, you guys are going to gank King? Fine, I'm going to gank you guys.
I guess it says to me, even in a weird way, they may be looking to 1-3-1. But I really don't think that's a smart idea. I don't know where the teleport comes into effect post 20 minutes in this game.
Well, Perfection is a very well-known Twisted Fate player in Oceania. We'll see what he can get done here on the champion. But Direwolves, plenty of other good elements here as well. I mean, we saw what the comp did for Direwolves in game number 1. They almost managed to find themselves a win through that mid-game, but we're going to keep some things consistent. The changes, of course, though, not on a different champion, but, you know, still a playmaker, still be fine. It's Sybil on Gragas that might be the biggest difference in the early game, and certainly once level 6 rolls around, Perfection wants to be all over the Rift.
Yeah, the question now is going to be if Legacy actually want to get the 2v2, and from the looks of it, they're very happy not having that, because Direwolves smartly this time are going to find themselves not contested in the 2v2 hunt. They're going to be alone. Yeah,
you can see there's vision everywhere, very deep into these lanes, and King is going to wait out the trinket timer once again, so he will not be spotted, even popping himself into Fog of War. Very adorable stuff there, but both teams get vision down. Direwolves bother to invade this time and get that vision. As a result, they will get the lane we expected them. I guess, sorry, that we assume they want, given their movements in games 1 and 2.
Yeah, definitely. Direwolves looking for that Perfection.
Going in. He's just going straight in. Hit level 2. I think he might have gotten a cheeky jungle camp. Maybe it's just a mini wave, but Claire, level 1's going to eat some harass here.
Yeah, that's crazy. You see Claire actually smited the Raptors, by the way, at level 1. Just, he gets the buff, but he also doesn't take it away. It allows the junglers to have a better time, work around Minky and Carbon hanging out together. That's pretty cute.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the Legacy gank squads last game. Flying Jew pretty quickly running towards the middle, and their Perfection does have to watch out for ganks this game.
Braum, one of the better persons or champions that can hold hands with the jungler and walk around and gank. The passive that comes from Braum, allowing you to get that stun after 4 auto attacks is just phenomenal. And working around a Rek'Sai with a knock-up, an unavoidable spell, and then having a ranged mid laner. So if ever there was a lane for them to focus, Perfection having teleport, pretty big target.
Yeah, really big target. Even though Ezreal's not the best mid laner to assist in ganks, if you've got 3 people there in the mid lane, it's not going to matter.
But he doesn't even need to have some kind of crowd control to engage for them now, because if the Braum is there by chance, then he can still be relevant and provide crowd control just by autoing.
Yeah, instead it's going to be a very fast push for both sides here. Vertical jungling means that the junglers and top laners did follow them, but Sharp King going to start this tower off, and there's 3 people already in the bottom side for for Legacy.
I'm interested to see how the gold distribution goes from these turrets being taken down if they look to get gold onto one exclusive member. Perfection.
Getting ganked now. Claire and Carbon have come in. He'll draw gold card, has a stun, but is going to get forced out of lane. In fact, he might just run top and make sure the tower dies.
He'll probably just teleport back. He does have that summoner spell conveniently available, as he's not level 6, he's not going to ultimate back towards his lane, so that's something nice to fall back upon.
Yep.
The fact that you're getting pushed out of lane, though, against an Ezreal raises some questions.
Yeah, goes back and immediately buys a bunch of wards, doesn't want to get ganked again, and even has an extra Doran's ring just for some, honestly, just some health.
Yeah, he's looking for a little bit of earlier strength. Doesn't mean he's going to have the sheen on time by any means. Probably going to go towards Lucidity Boots Rush and just try and be everywhere physically possible that isn't mid.
Yep, doesn't really want to lane with Claire, because honestly, nothing fun's really happening in this lane. Does eat some harass, though. Twisted Fate weirdly actually has some kind of an edge early on in this lane, but as it stands right now, it's towers being pushed down. In fact, they've fallen, and we've got a tower apiece broken on the top and bottom sides of the map.
Yeah, so the mirror start of the game, essentially. Both teams looking to get those turrets, maybe swap back to a 2v2 or swap back to the 1v2 and try and get the respective opposition turret. This is where the discrepancy starts to be created from both of the teams, how they rotate around to try and find a second turret in what is generally when a top laner actually has some kind of farm or some kind of levels to back them. In this case, though, neither do.
As you can see, Perfection still farming away. Claire, though, doing just fine here, going to equalize that CS, but they've actually sent Taliwaka back to the top lane, leaving King and Nada in a 2v2.
Yeah, so Vinky Whale being ranged is very good for getting through a 2v2 laning phase with Rom in particular, a stupidly tanky champion. Sybil's here.
Just taking Krugs, though, I think.
Oh, a teleport.
Oh, wow, they're going to go in. Sharp teleporting down as well. Going to line up the dive. They've kind of closed the trap here. Just waiting for the minion wave.
There's no Mega Gnar yet. Minky needs to start auto-attacking.
Oh, Perfection. No, he didn't teleport in. They are going to go in. Good double lock up there from Sybil. Flying Dew gets picked up by Nada. King taking the turret, I believe. But First Blood once again goes to a support.
They've managed to do well, though, to not die. King in particular taking their turret for no reason. They find themselves a very nice pick. The fact that Minky got away, though, is really unfortunate because his jump got cancelled as he tried to defuse the situation. So, very unfortunate. In saying that, smart use of the teleport. The saving grace of Legacy is that they've actually got a Corki just sitting in the top lane left to his own devices in a 1v0 matchup where he can freely farm.
Yeah, and maybe get the tower as well. That's my question. Looks like Nada flash hooking onto Carbon. Gonna ride Sybil in there as well. Perfection's also here. Needs to land the stun. Does get it. Ulti up from Ezreal as Carbon. He's forced to flash out, but Claire, he's gonna just pile on the damage. Flying Dew gets the slow Perfection, drawing another stun, but he's now gonna get chased down. Good stun onto Flying Dew, but Claire's still chasing Nada. Gonna look for the hook, but he'll miss the next one. Flying Dew still going. He's only level 3. Sharp tier as well. They're going to find it onto Claire. Perfection gets the red card just for some damage. Gets Claire and Carbon as King. Now coming down as well. And it's an absolute chaos here around the mid lane. They flash forward. They want it. They'll take the kill. Sharp gets it. And it's so scrappy, but that favors the Direwolves.
It definitely favors the Direwolves. They had the numbers advantage. Flying Dew putting himself in a very awkward position, to say the least. Throwing down the Ignite and the Q to try and zone away Perfection from any further usefulness. But as we can see, he was definitely still useful in that. And what was, I guess, a big mistake and an over-aggressive stay from Legacy is backfired.
Yeah, and Direwolves capitalized well with that skirmish now. About 1,500 gold ahead, and crucially, the bottom tower falls, so that's actually where most of the gold lead for the Wolves is. But Taliwaka did not get the top turret.
No, he didn't. Of course, being there by himself, what was going to be a full health turret, it takes a very long time for a Corki with a sheen to actually get that one down. So a lot of free farm. He's found himself with some nice experience, but he's still being matched by King.
Yeah, and King is not nearly as far behind as he was on his Cogmore in game number 1. So things looking better here. Perfection goes back as well, has a sheen for himself now, and level 6 on the Twisted Fate means that sort of skirmish erupts again. Perfection can be there in an instant. His teleport's back up as well.
Yeah, he can be everywhere on the map in an instant. Yep. He can ult somewhere, teleport back if need be. It's very difficult for Legacy to do exactly what they're doing now and look to get objectives when they have a Twisted Fate that can be everywhere.
Smart timing here from Legacy, though, able to take away the dragon. So they'll get that for themselves. Take the first dragon once again here in game number 2. But you can see bottom side, King just trying to hold the wave there as best he can, collect what farm he wants, and the Direwolves, they got their kills. They're just going to relax, and they've sort of reset back into very happy farm lanes.
They have, and it's exactly what they're looking for here, though, Legacy, to farm and just try and scale to a point of strength where they are actually almost superior in terms of their fighting capabilities. The Trinity Force rush, though, from King is nice to match that of the Corki. And then you have a look at the top laners, they're just going to be tanks anyway. So it comes down to execution as to how the mid-game goes, because they're both scaling to that exact same point. In saying that, Direwolves very good at working around having a Twisted Fate, whereas the Ezreal needs to walk there and only really has an ultimate to be able to impact other lanes. So a nice pick into the Ezreal is Twisted Fate.
It is. It's been nice so far. And Cliff's keeping up in CS, of course. Kind of as expected for the young, mechanically gifted player. But I think the other news for me, honestly, is looking in the top lane. Sharp is fairly significantly ahead of Minky. Well, Minky's actually just catching up now.
30 to 20. Oh, he has a kill as well. So
he's also down in experience. Yeah, that's true as well. Actually going to go aggressive here, but Sybil is here as well. Perfection is getting chased down by Ezreal, so he can't join in. Minky really wants it. He doesn't have his ulti. Not that close either. Applying
really wants it.
Also going to come in. Can't dodge the bolt of those shots, forced to pop his ultimate. And Perfection just can't leave this lane. Sharp's going to get 1v4'd in the top lane and will finally fall to Tallywhacker.
It took a while, but they get themselves a Maokai right there. The blue buff secured from Tallywhacker, but this is why they've actually gone in and been so aggressive, is that they've got a Kog'Maw sitting bot.
Yeah, trying to punish King for freezing teleport. Mid lane now, Sybil, Lantern's away. Perfection not going to fall for that one.
Lantern, the saving grace of that situation. They do lose their top turret though, so it has been completely evened out in terms of turret-based objective, 2-2. They've still got a freeze in the bottom lane though. King has been sacrificing his own health bar to ensure that the minions stay somewhere where they're not going to reset at the turret, and that he can just go for the Trinity Force in one big bite.
Legacy are not stopping, although now they'll back away from the turret towards the jungle and take that out instead. Perfection was looking to the top side, does have his Lucidity boots now as well, so can join pretty quickly with the ultimate or have it back relatively swiftly there as well. Dial's really being patient with this early game. You talked about it. It's not aggression that we usually see from them, especially against top teams. They like to play much more reserve, but when they hit that 20-minute mark, they usually hit the ground running.
They usually turn on the aggression and just go all in for it. They stop farming, they start trying to get kills, and just turn that aggro to max. And this is something that, considering we're 11 minutes in the game, and they have not even really reached their stride or their max strength in terms of what they play like as a team, it does go a very big way for how they're going to perform when they hit that period.
Blindview's Braum pick looks genius here though, because actually not bad against TF either. Perfection's trying to do what he can to clear this out. Dive being set up, but Carbon just going to whack the turret here. It's Perfection forced a wave clear with only Nada for help. King finally backs off from the bottom side, but he doesn't even have the Trinity Force. It's just a Sheen now added into that phase.
Which is still big.
Yeah,
He's managed to find himself 14 CS ahead of his lane opponent in Tallywhacker, but given that Tally found the kill in the top lane, all he's really done is caught up a little bit. Keeping in mind, the King was the one rotating around the map whilst Tallywhacker was farming in the top lane, so it's essentially reset the AD carry.
I like that King has clearly been favouring this Kog'Maw, but the Dials are doing much better this time around to set him up with the early game farm. That lane swap was nice to kick things off, but it's been pretty quiet, honestly. 12 minutes in. Dragon's not up for a couple more minutes, so not looking at that yet, and no real towers to push down. Mid lane especially, going to be a nightmare to clear out from these mid laners.
Yeah, it's really hard to siege a turret against this Direwolf side when TF is in the lane. If TF is not there, then it's actually quite easy to do so. The Kog'Maw has some wave clear, but he runs out of mana very quickly if he's using his spells to ensure that there is no minion wave there to deny the legacy push. So it does revolve a lot around Perfection. And this is the question mark that I was going to raise, is why he's gone for that teleport when he's the one that needs to actually be there in scenarios to provide wave clear. Otherwise, sieging just becomes really easy.
You can see Claire as the Ringglaive now just happily firing away, pushing, in fact, easily out pushing the Dials. Perfection will clear this out again. 4 in the mid lane here for Legacy. Don't quite get the tower down, but they're committing fairly hard to trying to collect this, and Perfection needs to go back and buy an item.
Yeah, they're committing a fair amount of resources. The fact that Corki and Ezreal are now sitting in the same lane for multiple waves is denying Legacy any chance of scaling at the rate that Direwolves are. The fact that King has been sitting bot lane, the fact that TF has been solo in mid, but in saying that, they are looking to go all in for this turret to ensure that they at the very least get it, and they find themselves with a lead.
Nice feint there from Legacy, sort of faking their backs around Dragon. And and then going back for the tower. Now get the tower and back away in time for Dragon. So smart timing there again. And Perfection, he's gone home guard boots on this Twisted Fate. Trying to impact this map, but he's been sat put in that mid lane by Claire for the first 14 minutes of this game.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because he is the wave clearer for this side. He does need to be there, and the fact that Legacy are putting all of their efforts towards the mid lane, it is where Perfection is. If Legacy were putting efforts towards the side lane, if they were all top, if they were all bottom, then Perfection can very easily rotate towards that lane, use the ultimate, and then teleport back to mid if need be, to ensure that it does stay there. But Legacy, a very smart decision, very smart tactical play to ensure that Perfection can't actually utilize two of his abilities right now.
Yep, Nada looking for a hook but doesn't find it. King's actually joined the mid lane now. Might be trying to line up some sort of pressure. Dragon is back alive. Sharp in his base has home guards. Gonna be looking for that teleport. Pink ward's there for Direwolves. Sibyl's in the area. Direwolves probably want to start this, and they will.
Legacy want to fight it, though. Sharp's looking to teleport.
Yep, he's going to TP right now. Does go behind them. He's looking for that flank. Gets in there, but maybe a little too early. They're going to jump on him. He's taking quite a lot of damage. Claire will take him out. It's actually Sybil that dies off to the side. Sharp now trying to take damage, but Nada's going to melt in that front line as Tallywhacker just dishes out damage at Perfection. There's nothing he can do. That's 3 clean kills for Legacy.
Yeah, a very smart tactical decision there from Legacy. They put everything onto the Maokai to ensure that he could not actually get a flank. Instead, it was Legacy that turned it onto him and found their pseudo version of a flank. They now find a very convincing 3-for-0 teamfight. They get the Dragon in response, and suddenly the gold lead is shifted back in their favor.
That Direwolves front line did not exist in that fight.
No.
They tried. But King and Perfection can't do too much given that they didn't have items. Trinity Force now being picked up for Cogmore.
Yep.
And the front line felt so squishy against that Ezreal. It's Claire again with the surprising mid-game damage.
And this is, I guess it's an itemization query that you have of this Direwolves side, is that they've gone all health on the Gragas. That's understandable. He's got his W. The Maokai's got his ultimate as well. So they have damage reduction, and they can afford to go for that raw health. But the fact they don't have resistances stacked, there's no Spectre's Cowl.
Carbon grabbed up their Flayed as well. Ulti there from Sybil, and King going to get himself a kill. Nice setup there for Dials, looking to brute force down the turret, and they will claim it in mid lane.
Claire.
All going in. Gets the last Q, but it's not enough. Sybil going to go back in as well. That'll force the flash from Flying Jew. Sharp barely lives, but Legacy are on the offensive.
The red buffs. The red pot, saving him.
Claire's damage is good. Minky scoops some minions. They're looking for Perfection. Finds a kill for Tally. Nice port in there from the Mega Gnar. And it's just crazy different fronts, but Legacy are finding picks.
Direwolves were forcing a turret down. As plain as day, that is what their attempts were going to be towards. But they didn't. They got the turret, but they overstayed their welcome. The Ezreal is just doing ridiculous amounts of damage. Sybil wants this.
Oh, Flying Jew hooked out by Nada instead, but stand behind the cannon creep to be safe. Sybil going in for the flank that wants Tally, but he'll Valkyrie out to safety. King gets chunked to Perfection. Wants to join in, just has his Lich Bane completed, but his team is too low to force a fight.
Something that we mentioned, they might want to ban the Ezreal in the champion select of this game, something that they completely overlooked and didn't want to do. Claire now on that champion has managed to find himself in a very commanding position in terms of how he can play around this Direwolves side. A team that, again, we have touched on multiple times, wants to find their strengths once they hit that skirmish stage of the game where they can completely catch people on rotations. Instead, Legacy have been focusing most of their effort around the mid lane, denying Perfection any chance to actually be a Twisted Fate. He's going to have to split push eventually. But in doing so, Legacy have now got a 4-0 Corki and an Ezreal that is big just from farm.
And I couldn't agree more. It's been 2 games now where Legacy have shown, at least in the first 15 to 20 minutes of the game, that Carbon especially knows exactly where to be in any stage of the early game. Game 1, King picks Cogmore. All right, go to his lane and punish him. They didn't get the lane swap. Picks it again. Okay, let him have the lane. Take it. We're going to gank Perfection because that's the important member to try and take out.
Yeah, and every single time, Tally has managed to find kills also. Yep. So they're just putting a lot of effort into the right places that enables the rest of the team of Legacy to actually get the kills and translate those kills into a potential snowball. In saying that, we saw this last game, Legacy start strong. This time it's nowhere near as strong. It's not the 6-0 scoreline. The gold is still only about 500 between them. And we're hitting a point where Direwolves can still outskirmish.
Yeah, nice and even here. So Direwolves with that Trinity Force, with that Lich Bane on Twisted Fate, can they use those Sheen items and try and get an advantage? But Legacy not really interested in fighting. Claire, though, going to snipe Perfection. And that'll give Legacy a turret.
Why do you give Claire Ezreal?
I don't know.
He is doing work with that. The rest of the team, again, they're focusing mid. They're focusing the one lane where Direwolves don't want to be. They want to be everywhere but mid so that they can actually work around the Twisted Fate, but instead Legacy choking them out right now.
And this is the danger of TF. He's very squishy, very vulnerable if you show up in his lane and annoy him. Legacy going to brute force down this turret, really shove it down. They'll get it. Now look for the initiation. Tallywhacker. Valkyrie's in aggressively. Sybil trying to kite them away. Perfection's TPing back in. Oh my god, they've caught Minky! Really nice ulti, but a massive 4-man Gnar won't matter as King claims the kill.
Legacy just sacrificed Minky Whale there, completely caught out from an amazing explosive cask of Sybil. He gets exactly what they were looking for, but before all of this happened, they also lost 2 turrets. So all in all, Legacy now 5-3 in turrets have found themselves with a gold lead. Direwolves get an answer, they make a response, but it's not enough to put them directly back into this game yet. In saying that, they're not out of it.
No, not at all. Dial's still fighting here in this game, but haven't found the spot that they found in game 1. Didn't win that game, unfortunately, but really found a nice team fight and then sort of couldn't close the rest of that game out. Legacy somehow feel like they're in more control, but the lead is not nearly the same as game 1, so they do still have to be careful.
Yeah, exactly right, of course. Direwolves are going to be able to find their strengths a lot sooner. The biggest saving grace of this game right now, you have to say, the fact that Kog'Maw is not 0-4.
Yep, King's
That's
actually
be pretty nice.
2-0-1, actually having a nice little game for himself is the Kog'Maw. Nice and even on CS as well. It's Perfection that finds himself slightly behind Claire, and he had immaculate CS in game number 1 on the Jace here. Dragon, though, 50 seconds away. Baron is now alive. Major objectives have started to spawn, and Legacy, most crucially, actually have a Dragon advantage in this game.
They do. Both of the Dragons is a very big factor in this game. It's something we've mentioned in the first game, is that the gold always favors the objective if you're comparing a tower to a Dragon, but Legacy have both. They're in a great position in terms of objective closeouts in this game.
Yep, found a pink blood, though. King will spit on that, make sure that goes away. Carbon tunnels out to safety. The Dials are going to contest with this Dragon shot nice and early as King eats about 40% of his health bar from an Ezreal ulti.
The Ezreal's massive, has all of his items, which is so weird to say, for the makings of a death cap. He has the Amp Tome with the needlessly large rod and the blasting one there, so not too far away from that spike, and considering his damage was that high without a death cap, that's pretty scary.
Yeah, Claire's only going to get stronger. We saw it in game 1. What happened as Legacy do go into the Dragon. Shuffle TP in again. They have to fight. They found Minky. He's in mini-Gnar form. That's a good pick, but he hops away. Perfection getting jumped on, but Sybil cleans him out. A sharp dives into the backline. But King's going in. They've caught Claire with an amazing explosive cast, and King's reaped the benefits. The kill goes in. Perfection looking for the flash. Gold card. No. He's not in range. He doesn't have his ulti. It's just about to come back up. Minky's going to run away. King will chase out Braum. Direwolves are split, but they get the kills.
This is going to be a wild goose chase that'll probably go on for a while.
Perfection has his ulti.
There it is.
Who's going to chase him out? Does get him before he executes himself.
He was on the way to executing himself as well, that's for certain. Thankfully, Perfection has a teleport to engage and then the ultimate to follow that up at the end of the fight.
Don't even worry about it. Can always be there.
I mean, indirectly, it finds a strategic team fighting-based decision as the Twisted Fate can use his ultimate in a fight to reposition or to catch someone that was otherwise going to escape. So the fact it can teleport in is nice. But we're going to see the replay of this fight. Minky gets caught, but manages to get away with his life. In saying that, Carbon destroyed. Sharp actually lives as well. So the tanks finding a trade-off that actually favors Direwolves. Claire goes down immediately. Sybil hitting another good explosive cask. Perfection and King, the carry's still left standing, so they're able to just utilize that fact.
What?
What the hell?
Pop back straight in, and there's a Baron attempt from Legacy. They're just destroying this, but Minky, he's going to get hit it by Nada. Sharp has to go in. They've got 2 smites. I don't know if the Dials can contest. Sybil's going to be in the area. Doesn't get it. Carbon smites it away, and that gets stolen out from Direwolves.
Completely unprepared for the Baron right there. Sybil was too low to be able to actually deal with that. He could not go into the pit and smite it away. Carbon picks that one up and try as Sharp might to secure that one with some kind of spell. He was never going to outdamage the smite. No one actually really touching him until it was gone, so his ultimate was not going to do any damage.
Decisive Baron there from Legacy once again in the series. Gives himself a little bit of breathing room. Still ahead, off about 2,000 gold. Not a massive lead like it was in game number 1, but the Dials haven't been fighting nearly as hard as they were with the Jace pick. And all of a sudden, Direwolves, who look like they might have got some momentum, suddenly find themselves having to wait a couple more minutes.
Yeah, exactly right. The fact that they're able to actually get themselves well and truly in control of the game again after a reset of what was a positive fight for the Direwolves. They were the ones that just got the Dragon fight. They secured the Dragon. They got the picks. They even evened up the kill line. In fact, they were ahead before that Baron was taken. But then suddenly, just like that, Legacy turn it back around, making very smart macro decisions this game, denying Direwolves any chance of maintaining a lead.
It's that strategic play from Legacy that seems to be getting the better of Direwolves, at least in the opening 2 games here. Again, not over yet. Direwolves are a team that fight to the death. But Legacy right now is going to take as many turrets as they can get their hands on. And right now, Direwolves don't really have much of a choice.
Yeah, I mean, the Direwolves are just going to have to like try and get through what is going to be a very big Baron spike.
Look at Tallywhacker.
Yeah.
He's like melee mode onto the turret. He does not care at all.
Well, we know Tallywhacker tries to be Master Yi in his pastime, so he's doing a very good job of that, standing as far up as he can, but he can afford to because he's massive right now.
Yeah.
He's got Flying Dew, has the Unbreakable, can come in and assist.
Claire.
Wow. What?
And Claire's just poking the crap out of Direwolves here. You can see Sybil tries to go in for a body slam. Perfection's already forced back. This tower's looking to fall.
It's gone.
Yeah, it is gone here. Claire actually gets Sybil off to the side. Just sneaks into the base and goes in. Minky's massive king will go down to Mega now. Nada's forced to flash away, but Legacy, they're going to stream into the base. Sharp will put up a fight, but he'll finally go down as well. And you said it, this might be the end of the game.
They could end this. They've still got 2 members here, Direwolves. They've got their wave clear, but it's a Baron buff minion stack, essentially. There is a whole lot of them. Perfection has nothing he can do here.
Minky got grabbed, but Perfection can't get onto the key targets. He's got his zombies. He's getting dove, though. Gonna get destroyed there. He evaporates outside his Nexus. And the Direwolves looking to quickly go down 2-0. Turret's dead. They're trying to hold them off. Sybil ults them away, but Minky's going in. Claire and Tally have too much damage. And it's another Nexus that falls as Legacy find themselves 2-0 up.
Within 2 minutes of getting the Baron buff, seemingly out of nowhere right there, Legacy managed to come up with another convincing victory off the back of what was a better start from the Direwolves, but it wasn't enough to get them back directly into a commanding position. This macro shot calling of Legacy seems unbeatable.
That was almost the reverse of game 1, I felt like.
Yeah.
Where you had like a really disastrous early game to start things off. Then we went to okay, Dials pick it back up, and then all of a sudden Legacy take over late game. This game was the Dials actually keeping it nice and even, and then all of a sudden, it kind of flopped the early game to the late game, and Legacy are like, time to win the game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Legacy team, after these 2 games, are starting to look nearly unstoppable. Coming into this 3rd game, there's a lot of questions the Direwolves need to ask themselves, Banning in particular.
Yeah, we see we're back with Spawn for a bit more analysis. Spawn, game 2 ended pretty crazily there.
Yeah, what a dramatic ending, and Claire just going over the wall, getting everything started. But the Legacy unit is in full swing right now. They look really impressive.
Yeah, we talked a bit about it kind of in the last segment before, but that Flying Dew carbon shot calling, all of that just strong team play, it's showing here in this game.
Definitely. A team with the highest kill participation through every individual member coming together in the semifinals and being a very strong team is no big surprise, but the way that they're putting it into effect is definitely looking like an improvement.
Yeah, it certainly does. And, you have to question where the answer from Direwolves is. There's a huge elephant in the room, and that's that Nada is their support. Chuffa is gone, and he was their shot caller. Right now, they just look like they're being outclassed around the Rift. Even when they found the lane swap this game, the shot calling just doesn't look like it's there.
Yeah, did the smart thing, swap the aggression there from the Rex side, just went to gank Perfection, and I agree, Chuffa, a great player in his own right. Direwolves can certainly hang mechanically, but not strategically with Legacy, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, Nada's the best example of that as well. Mechanically, he does fit in perfectly, but missing that shot caller and Chuffa is starting to hurt them.
Yeah, exactly right, and we're going to have a look in the replay because you can just tell how one team right now is super coordinated, and that's your blue side.
Yep.
On the side of Direwolves, they're just completely reactive every single time. So let's start it off. This is the beginning of the end pretty much because Claire just goes berserk.
Yeah, he goes massive in this. The fact he can use his E so aggressively, the rest of Legacy can just snowball through. Claire did this multiple times in this game. The fact that he can be so aggressive and rely on the rest of his team, know that they're going to be there to support his decisions, and they're able to get the inhibitor whilst he's assassinating people on the side, is the signs of a very strong team.
Yeah, and I was sitting out there and it's just all carbon right now. Go, go, go. Do not back out. And like their shot calling, their ability to play as a unit is just completely it's all on point. They're clicking so well, and you see they take out Perfection. That's one of the many times this game Perfection was by himself and got caught out on the tier 2 mid turret when Claire was able to assassinate him from the side and break the base was the first time. And it just looks right now that Direwolves, first 15 minutes of the game, completely on point. That's where they like to play. But as soon as it goes past that into mini skirmishes and team fights, it's just all Legacy.
Yeah, I think you said it about halfway through that game, Rusty. Why is Claire's Ezreal still in this game? What is this?
Exactly.
It's so strong.
I stand by that right now. Why is he still getting Ezreal after the first game? He went massive. It's something that they will need to look at.
Yeah, and the thing about Ezreal is Claire is a great poke champion right now. It's funny because he's kind of rebranded himself, but he just has all these escapes to be able to get himself out of the aggressive situations.
Yeah, and it's just, mechanics or double mechanics as Claire's just been showing up so well on the champion.
Yeah, certainly has. And, we got another replay, hopefully, to show just exactly that as we jump in. This is Claire's team fight because he just hangs out on the left side of the ref and goes berserk.
He does. This is a massive team fight. As we'll roll this one through and just pay special attention, as you mentioned, to what Claire can do. Really gets it done sharp. It was a very smart decision from Legacy to ensure they all went to him and actually peeled back so that they didn't get flanked. But Claire sitting on the sideline, as you said, able to put down that hurt while the rest of the team went for a Maokai, really forces them into an awkward position.
And the Tally was a beneficiary there because Claire did 90% of the damage. Tally was a person that secured the kills. It meant that at 13 minutes he went back, got the Trinity Force, got the Sork Shoes. Yeah. He's in complete Corky mode right there. And I love the fact that they keep putting on him because we call him a melee AD carry sometimes. Gatling gun just shredding everyone.
Yeah. And I guess that's the thing is we've seen 2 games now. Legacy look very strong in both, especially strategically. But we've seen their 2 carries on the same 2 champions. So if you're Dials, I think you have a pretty obvious hallmark for change here in this game because the bans have not changed in 2 games.
It's funny, even the drafting, so the bans were the same. The picks from Legacy were entirely the same, and you need to change things up, Dials.
Yeah, I think that it's going to dissolve to team fighting anyway. Just get Perfection on Vlad somehow.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see if that happens. The Dials have to dig deep. We will go to a break, but when we return, can Legacy take a 3-0 sweep or the Dials start fighting back in game number 3?